we keep a lot of things to ourselves. I think that we could easily.
Thank you so much. I'll come back and have my share.
Welcome to the TheNanaChurcherShow, the show that inspires you and motivates you to do something with your life. Today, we are so excited. We are honored to have His Excellency Professor Kwaku Danso-Boafo, the High Commissioner for the United Kingdom, come on set to share with us what is buzzing in Ghana. We are celebrating 56 years of independence. Welcome, His Excellency.
Well, thank you so much, and I welcome you to the High Commission.
Thank you.
I haven't seen you for some time. It's good to see you again.
Yes, thank you. The Gold Coast, we once upon a time called Ghana, it's now 56, or it's going to celebrate 56 years of independence. And what do you have to say after 56 years of?
As you rightly said, 56 years ago, we were at the edge of changing, transitioning from the Gold Coast to Ghana. We've been in Ghana for 56 years, and I think we've done so much, not just for Ghanaians, but for Africans as a whole. You remember that part of our Declaration of Independence came of our commitment to Africa, to champion the cause of the liberation of Africa. And we lived it. We dedicated ourselves to liberating the former colonies in Africa, liberating the areas that had been dominated by minority regimes, and fighting also the scourge of apartheid in South Africa. So not only did we try to build a good country for Ghanaians, but we also tried to help our brothers and sisters who needed our assistance. So when Kwame Nkrumah was telling the whole world that our independence was going to be linked to the total liberation of Africa, indeed we put it into practice, and we spent a lot of our resources, both human, material, and the political wherewithal to support our brothers and sisters who needed our support. I can say that just about every African country benefited from Ghana's political independence. Not only those who were fighting the liberation movements, but every country. Ghana sent teachers to Kenya, to Uganda. We provided material to Rhodesia, those who were fighting the Yasmin regime in Rhodesia, ANC, Pan-Africanist Congress. Almost all the liberation leaders at the time held Ghanaian passports. Wow. Most of them lived in Ghana. The case of Robert Mugabe, president or current president of Zimbabwe, for instance, he married a Ghanaian woman. Dr. Hastings Kamuzu Banda, they were Nelson Mandela. They all at one time came and stayed in Ghana for some time. So Ghana became the trailblazer for Africa, and I think it was a good thing that we did. I would venture to say or argue that had we not been independent around that time, the emancipation and liberation of the African continent would have delayed for some time. So it was a very significant moment for Africans. We told the whole world that we had done what no black person had succeeded in doing. Marcus Garvey had tried to create a kind of black, a black nation. He couldn't, and Kwame Nkrumah has succeeded. And indeed, in his speech on the 6th of March, he said it, that he has succeeded where Marcus Garvey failed. We brought Africans, not Africans narrowly defined as Africans on the continent, but Africans everywhere, because his vision was until Africans in Africa got respect, no other black person was going to be respected, along the lines of Malcolm X, and until all black folks around the world were respected, Africans on the continent were not going to be respected. So he brought everybody together. His colleagues who were here with him at the time, from 1945 when he attended the Pan-Africanist Congress, specifically people like C.L. James from Trinidad, George Padmore, also from Trinidad. There were a lot of Jamaicans, Eric Blyden, T.R. McConey, people like Sir Eric Williams, who later became the Prime Minister of Trinidad. These were all individuals Nkrumah sought to attract. Wow. And he succeeded to a large extent in making Ghana the mecca of African liberation. As you know, George Padmore came to live in Ghana. Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois came to live in Ghana and died in Ghana together with his wife. Nkrumah named a library after George Padmore, the George Padmore Library. And we do have the Du Bois Center. But you see, the significance of Dr. Du Bois has to be mentioned together with Ghana's independence, because Nkrumah felt, as we were becoming independent, we needed to tell our story. We needed to tell the whole world what constituted our history, because most of the books we read about us, about Africans, generally had been written by Europeans. And Nkrumah felt that it was about time Africa told its own story, and that story had to be told by Africans as they saw it. So he created the Encyclopedia Africana project and made Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois the first black person to have earned a PhD from Harvard University, the first director. So Du Bois and his wife, Shirley Du Bois, came, accepted the invitation, came to live in Ghana, died in Ghana, was buried in Ghana. And since that time, Nkrumah's time, nobody has been able to do that. And it was no wonder that Nkrumah was adjudged the greatest African of the 21st century. He did so much for us.
So what is the theme for this year as Ghana is celebrating? What is the theme that, should I say, the High Commission has for Ghanaians here in the UK and around the world? What's the theme for it?
Building a united Africa. Wow. We would also be celebrating the 50th anniversary of the founding of the Organization of African Unity in May, on May 25th. And 50 years ago, Kwame Nkrumah, Haile Selassie, and others came together and thought it fit to create an organization to champion the cause of African unity. Because as far back as 1963, Kwame Nkrumah had felt that most African countries were not economically viable. Ghana's population at independence was less than 4 million. Now we are about 24 million.
Wow.
You take countries that have the size, Ethiopia, Sudan, Egypt, South Africa, Nigeria. The rest are too small to really compete in the current economic scheme of things. Yeah. So he felt that for Africa to really take its position in the world, all the African countries needed to come together and unite. He cited the example of the United States of America, where the former 13 colonies of Great Britain came together to form a union called the United States of America. He also cited the case of the former Soviet Union, that they were a powerful country because they had come together to constitute a union that had both economic, military strength. Look at the size of China. So he didn't see the sense in fighting amongst ourselves to create countries small, say Gambia, Ghana, Liberia, Sierra Leone. No. Why shouldn't Africa come together, pull its resources together, get its people together? By so doing, Africa would continue to own and utilize the resources that had been hitherto used by other powers, external powers. So in 1963, when he wrote the famous book, Africa Must Unite, he made the economic, social, political arguments for a continental unity. And it's a classic book that I think everybody ought to read. If we had followed his advice and his the kinds of his political thinking, we would not be where we are today.
Wow. So Ghana is celebrating, and what are some of the highlights of the celebrations that will be happening in Ghana?
Well, part of our activities include what we're doing now. Okay. We've done a lot of interviews. There would also be radio interviews to explain to people. There are a lot of young people these days who have lost contact with the history of, say, Ghana, Nigeria, or Africa for that matter. A lot of young people who don't understand how we came to be Ghana, transitioning from the Gold Coast. There are a lot of young people who don't understand the struggles that our forefathers went through. Independence was not just granted because some people wanted us to be free. No, people fought, went to prison, and Nkrumah, as you know, was imprisoned. In fact, he came from prison to be appointed leader of government business in 1951. So we want this type of history to be known. On the 6th of March, we would at the Hilton Hotel we will have a celebration. We will invite all Ghanaians to come in and help us celebrate. Everybody should come. Everybody dress in your kente to proclaim to the whole world that the Black Star of Africa is still alive and shining.
I'm with one of Ghana's finest queens, and she is looking so goldy or golden, can I say. Nana, how are you? And please tell us who you are again.
Oh, I'm fine, thank you. Anyway, thank you very much. My name is Namanye Afoko Omedro, a warrior queen of Katamanso. That's my name.
Namanye Afoko Omedro the second.
A warrior queen of Katamanso.
Wow, what does that mean?
A warrior queen. Yeah, in 1826, there was a war between two tribes. So that's how I got my name. Yeah.
Okay, what do you think of today's event?
I think it's really nice. It's very, very nice. Yeah, a lot of people have attended. I wasn't thinking that a lot of people will be here today because today is a working day, but thank God a lot of people are here today and we are really enjoying ourselves. And I think God has blessed Ghana to be 56 years today. We thank God for that, but we shouldn't just be counting the years. Rather, we should do something meaningful for Ghana.
For Ghana. Do you want to end it with something in Ga for Ghanaians out there?
Yo, nyameke cheme, ni meke name, mimbanye do manye na minye biyo na manya Afoko Omedro, katamanso manye ni jienyo. Mindamo bi ehwane ne, mwene gbine Ghana afi nyomwe enumoke ekpa. No hewo wo Ghana High Commissioner ni obi ne ebu a wo fe wona ni won yeneke gbijiro na ye bi ene. Ewo won paye ho anyamgofa enna wo mobo na enna Ghana mobo ni won paye na me helish na me na akechi wo ma etofa shimon amewo amedomoshi koni no fe no afe jogba agbene to njole ke sumo ke ko mefe mo abamami jano dani Ghana ba ya hin twa no manya bla wo fe yao.
Thank you, thank you.
So, Your Excellency, how has Ghana fared after, from the last or past celebrations and moving on to this celebration? Is there any difference that we're going to be seeing?
Oh yes, we are very proud to say that we had elections in December. The elections were very successful, very transparent. All the international, local organizations that came to observe the elections gave us kudos. So we are quite excited. This year's celebrations, we will showcase Ghana. We will have huge television screens that would show the tourist sites. Tullow Oil would also be showing some of the oil projects that we have in Ghana, our accomplishments in the oil and gas sector, desire to project ourselves into the middle part of the 21st century as the true Black Star of Africa, not just politically. Politically, people know that we are the trailblazers. Economically, we want to also move way ahead. And I would want to say that those countries that have their eyes set on overtaking Ghana, we are not about to relinquish our #1 position in the world. So this year's celebration is going to be quiet, a little low key, but we will show a whole lot more for the world to see that the trailblazers are still in front, and the star is shining as brightly as it was lit back in 1957.
Going back to 1957, before we started the interview, you did mention Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, and of course we want the young generation or the younger generation to know who Dr. Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah is. So who is he?
Well, Kwame Nkrumah was a very unique individual, political leader who we say was way, way ahead of his time. He came from very, very humble home. Both parents were illiterate. In fact, his mother was blind. He had his initial education in Ghana, went to the United States, returned to the United Kingdom, and in 1945 he was here together with Jomo Kenyatta, all the Julius Nyerere. He had a whole lot of political actors who were then in here, and they all participated in the Pan-African Conference, because Nkrumah had always maintained that Africa needed to unite, but he felt that as a Ghanaian at the time, or somebody from the Gold Coast, he needed to liberate his country before he could get to the other parts of Africa. So he linked up with some of his colleagues and Dr. Du Bois, who was here in 1945 to chair the Pan-Africanist Congress. Nkrumah returned to Ghana in 1947. I don't know how old you were at the time, but
I don't think my parents were.
In 1947, and joined a political party. Within 2 years, he had created his own political party. Within another 2 years, he had won elections and become leader of government business. So he continued from 1951, 1952, 53, 54, 55, 56. 57, he was elected the first prime minister of Ghana. That is, the Gold Coast had ceased to be a colony and had transitioned to Ghana. From 1957 to 1960, he was a prime minister. In 1960, on the 1st of July, Ghana became a republic, and Nkrumah became the first president of the first republic of Ghana. Unfortunately, he was overthrown in 1966, 24th February, just 2 days ago. So 2 days ago, we were all very sad. We lost a great leader. Had he lived, as I said, so maybe he was 80 or so, Ghana would have been very different. He died in 1972 at a very young age of 63. Just imagine what he could have accomplished in those days. And even in death, Nkrumah had been saying, or followers of Nkrumah had been saying, that Nkrumah never dies. And that had been used against him, that the man was behaving like a messiah, like a god. Who is this person who says he never dies? But here you and I are talking about Kwame Nkrumah. The world continues to talk about him. He had been adjudged the most significant African leader of the 20th century. So shouldn't we really believe the fact that indeed Osagyefo never dies? So that was the man. In addition to being a politician, a practicing politician, he was also an academic intellectual. He wrote over 12 books, very significant books. One of his first publications, Towards Colonial Freedom, he charted the course of colonial emancipation. How do we liberate ourselves from colonialism? He makes the argument for emancipation. Nobody should live under the bondage of colonialism, because every group of people, including Ghanaians and Africans, had a right to manage or mismanage our affairs.
So what are some of the challenges that Ghana has faced after independence?
This is a great question. You remember that prior to independence, there was no country like Ghana. Even the Gold Coast did not include what is now the Volta region. We had to go into a plebiscite to allow that part of present-day Ghana to decide whether or not they wanted to be part of Togo or they wanted to be part of Ghana. Because remember, Togo had become a German protectorate, and after the Second World War, it was given to France. France had been administered it for some time, and therefore the people had to be given an opportunity to decide for themselves whether they wanted to be part of Ghana or they wanted to be continue to be part of Togo. And they opted to be part of Ghana. So after that, we ran into a second issue. Throughout the struggle for independence, there were some political leaders, led by Dr. Busia and some of these folks, in the Ashanti region, who preferred what constituted a federal form of government, because these individuals hated Kwame Nkrumah. They felt that they were the intelligentsia, they had the brains, and they should have been the natural rulers of Ghana. And they were accusing Britain of choosing sides, preferring brawn as opposed to brain. They saw Kwame Nkrumah as someone who possessed brawn but not brains. They were the ones who had brains. So they wanted Ashanti region and other parts of Ghana to be separated apart from Ghana. And Nkrumah felt that Ghana should remain as a unitary state, whereas these other folks preferred a federalist form of government. So after independence, Nkrumah needed to hold this entity that was referred to as the Gold Coast, plus the Volta region that had become part of Ghana, together. He needed to move from a geographical description of the Gold Coast to a nation called Ghana. There's a difference. Putting all these ethnic groups, Ashantis, the Gombes, Ewes, Frafras, the Banis, Chims, Fantis, together to live as one entity, exhibited the characteristics of individuals who belong to a geographical entity called Ghana. The transformation from that geographical entity into what constituted a nation was a little bit of a problem. Hitherto, application forms for schools, jobs had questions about one's ethnic group or what constitutes a tribe. What is your tribe? What language do you speak? It was on application forms. Nkrumah made a conscious effort to get rid of all of those things, so that Ghanaians saw themselves as Ghanaians, as opposed to Achims first, Ashantis first, the Gombes first, the Banis second. You go just so and so, And I think it was a remarkable achievement that Kwame Nkrumah got. We don't talk too much about it because we think it's automatic. It came naturally. No, there had to be a conscious effort to teach courses like service for self-government. These were taught in schools. And he set up secondary schools around the country where people moved from their own little regions or districts or villages to join other groups in the boarding school. So whether if you were Ashanti, you were a Ga, or whether you find yourself going to school in, say, Nabrongo or Tamale or Bolga or Accra or Wada, the exercise of forging Ghana into a nation was so successfully accomplished. So when people talk about Ghana being a peaceful country in Africa, we don't go through what the rest of Africa go through because it's not that we are any different. It was because of the care and the calculations that Nkrumah put in, forging all of us into one entity called the nation of Ghana.
I like the way you said the care, because most people say Ghanaians are very hospitable.
Yeah.
Is it because of what started many, many years ago, or is it natural?
Be your brother's keeper. Traditionally, customarily, that's the way we were brought up. You have to welcome visitors. We even have proverbs. That's it. If you have one hen or one cock or whatever that you read for whatever, you keep it. When you have a visitor, you slaughter it, and the visitor eats it. So that's the way. And I hope we don't lose some of these things. Urbanization and westernization is beginning to kill some of these. And I hope we don't lose it. But from that period on, we ran into a lot of political instability because we're trying to chart a course. The Nkrumah experiment to some folks had not worked. The military has stepped in with external influence, of course. And there were also a lot of Western writers and academics who were trying to explain and interpret who we were and what we needed to do in order to progress. There were a lot of political scientists, economists, anthropologists who were trying to tell us some aspects of our life which were not so conducive to development. So we made a lot of mistakes. So you saw that the military came in 1966, it came back in 1972, then returned in 1979. All these mistakes were made. But in 1992, we decided that, of course, enough has been enough. We've made all these mistakes. It's only a fool who doesn't learn from mistakes, or a fool who keeps on doing the same thing and getting the same results and doesn't want to change. So we changed course. Said, now we want to be democratic. We We want to find a permanent way of selecting our leaders. We want to keep them there for 4 years. We'll test them. After 4 years, we'll see whether or not we want to keep them there. So we moved on to transitioning from military government to civilian government, written a constitution that has survived in the Fourth Republic till today. And I hope it survives, it stays on forever. So these are some of the things we'll be celebrating as a people, because we are one of the very few folks who went through democratic transition and even got into a point in 2000 where we consolidated democracy. By that I mean the government in power, the political party in power lost elections, and a new political party came in. And in 2008, 2009, that political party also lost elections, and a new party that lost elections in 2001 has come back, which is rare in the African sense. But we are marching on. We haven't gotten to where we want to be yet. We want to have a Ghana in which everybody is satisfied, everybody is free to do what they have to do, in which the so-called hewers of water and drawers of, hewers of wood and drawers of water ceases to be part of our traditional existence.
Your Excellency, Professor Kwaku Danso-Boafo, thank you so much for giving us the honor to come and for you to share with us our great nation, the trailblazing of Africa, shining black star, Ghana. If you haven't visited Ghana, I think you should do so, because there are awesome things happening on the continent. Thank you for watching the Nana Churches Show. Make sure you tune in next time. Thank you. Thank you so much.
In such a way that we keep a lot of things to ourselves. Things that we could easily.
Thank you so much. I'll come back and have my share of glory. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.